Yeah, thanks everybody. Certainly welcome. Glad to have everybody here for this Innovation Crossroads um, uh, Deep Tech Showcase and really graduation event for our third cohort. Uh, um, this is an exciting time of year as we transition and really celebrate the cohort that has sort of is completed its 2-year fellowship, um, and really is sort of transitioning to outside the laboratory. That said, we always say that you're for people that graduate the program, we always consider them a part of the Innovation Crossroads program, and they still have our full support. So, but this is an exciting time, and we're really happy to show you the progress and the current state where these 7 companies that are a part of cohort 3, what all they've been able to accomplish. Yeah, just to start off here, I'd like to give a quick program overview, and then I'll transition to a really exciting panel with 2 of our previous alumni founders that are from cohort 2, Megan O'Connor and Matt Smith. But yeah, just real quick for those of you who aren't familiar with the program, um, and I think Neem, if you can click one more time, I think it might bring up another graphic. Oh, never mind. You can go back. Uh, yeah, there's the program itself is a 2-year fellowship. It's an entrepreneurial fellowship program run by Oak Ridge National Laboratory. We recruit external hard tech and clean tech entrepreneurs to come to the laboratory and spend 2 years here at Oak Ridge, working collaboratively with our R&D staff on de-risking and developing new technologies around their startups. And simultaneously, we have a lot of business related support and mentorship as well. Um, and you can see on the bottom here, uh, we've we basically have 5 cohorts. So our first cohort, 2017, um, we're just going to bring a cohort in a couple of weeks. So that's this is a really exciting time now for us in the program. We're primarily sponsored by the Department of Energy's Advanced Manufacturing Office, but we're also supported by the Oak Ridge National Laboratory itself, and the Tennessee Valley Authority is also a key sponsor. And new this year, the Buildings Technology Office within the Department of Energy as a sponsor. So we're glad to see that, and we're bringing on 6 new founders in our part of our cohort 5, and we'll be in a position to officially announce that very soon. So stay tuned for that announcement. And we'll go on, I think, Nima, just the next slide here. Just a little bit more about the fellowship itself. We really the backbone of the program is the collaborative R&D at the lab, and so our innovators can come in and access all of the world-class facilities and expertise that's encompassed by the laboratory. You can see a number of the facilities here. The pictures across the top are our innovators in action, and I think this is a good transition. Matt Smith in the middle picture, and Megan and her team right to the right of Matt are who's on our panel now. So Megan and Matt, it's great to have you here, and welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us. Really excited to be a part of the panel.
Yeah. Well, why don't we start off with so Megan is the CEO and co-founder of Nth Cycle, was in cohort 2. CEO and co-founder of TC Poly. Um, why don't we start off with, why don't you introduce yourselves a little bit, and your company, and tell us what you're doing now. Yeah, Megan, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us today. I'm excited to be here. So again, my name is Megan O'Connor. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of nCycle. We're developing a new technology to increase the processing capacity here in North America. So we process anything from low-grade ores all the way to end-of-life feedstocks like lithium-ion batteries, again, to try and reduce our reliance on overseas supply chains as we move forward towards this clean energy economy. And so again, thanks, Dan. I'm excited to talk to you and Matt today.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, Matt, how about you?
Hey, good to see you, Megan. I'm Matt Smith, co-founder CEO at TC Poly. Actually started the company 2017 while I was finishing grad school at Georgia Tech. Entered the Innovation Crossroads program 2018, pretty much straight out of grad school. And the focus of our company is we make advanced materials for the 3D printing industry, and specifically we're making new types of plastic composite materials that can be used to enhance the functionality of traditional plastics. So excited to be where we're at now. We're relocated down to Atlanta, Georgia after graduating from the Innovation Crossroads program, opened up a small manufacturing facility here, and just working to transition some of our early prototype demonstration projects to production, and still trying to bring in additional grant funding, waiting to hear back on a few SBRS TTR phase 2s this summer.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask the same follow-up question to Megan, but Matt, you're putting together quite the team. Can you describe kind of your team and where you're at right now?
Yeah, and we're still a pretty small team. Thomas Bucher and I are co-founders. Tom also did his PhD at Georgia Tech, and his was in mechanical engineering. So starting with a good foundation there. Luckily for us, our advisor, Baratun Nicola, he's a professor at Georgia Tech, but also has his own startup company and was very supportive of us. And he's an advisor and part of our team as well. Advisory board members in electronics thermal management, mold tooling space, both bringing a lot of expertise there that contribute to the team. And then just building it out, we have undergrad engineers from strong programs in universities like the University of Tennessee, Georgia Tech, and those types of schools. We've been fortunate to be able to utilize our network to bring those individuals in.
Awesome. And I think you people can go on your website, tcpoly.com, and actually buy your materials. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, one of the nice things about the Innovation Crossroads programs really gave us this realm to experiment in and really develop our materials to get them to a point to where they could be distributed to commercial customers externally in good enough quality to give a good customer experience. And so we're to a place now where we're selling our materials on our website and through different distribution partnerships, and just excited to continue to try to grow those sales.
Fantastic. And Megan, why don't you tell us about your team up in Boston?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I didn't answer that other half of the question. So yeah, we moved up to Boston after our time at Innovation Crossroads. We just raised our seed round, so it's just over $3 million to scale the technology for our first customer pilot in Q1 of 2022. So we're very excited about that, and that'll be in the battery recycling space. And with that money, we actually were able to really increase our team size to be able to scale that quickly to keep up with this market. So it was just the two of us, Emily and I, at Innovation Crossroads down in Tennessee. And so when we left, my co-founder, Chad Basidis, joined us full-time from academia. So he used to be a professor at Harvard. And so we got him full-time on board to be our VP of R&D. We just hired a VP of operations who has experience in actually scaling these types of technologies in the hardware space. So we're excited to have his expertise on hand. We also have a business development consultant, Coleman Adams, who is one of our investors as well from Clean Energy Ventures, and you'll actually hear from him later today in the fireside chat, as well as a bunch of engineers. So our team is growing. We're at 7 now and plan to be at 12 by the end of this year.
Fantastic. That's certainly been really excited to see the progress that both of you are making. Both of you have been involved in I know various other entrepreneurial programs. For those that might not be as familiar with Innovation Crossroads, what would you say is the biggest difference between Innovation Crossroads and some of the other startup programs you've been involved with? Yeah, Matt, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, I think something that's probably pretty obvious is just that technical expertise that comes with the Innovation Crossroads program. There's really not another accelerator that I'm aware of where you get to interact with world-class scientists who are familiar with your technology and can actually bring a lot to the table from a technological perspective in de-risking the technology. So I think that's one very clear and obvious differentiator there. I think something that surprised me that was also a really helpful facet of the program was because I was working out of the manufacturing demonstration facility, which is mostly I don't know if it's mostly driven by industrial contracts, but there's a lot of industrial engagement there. I was exposed to a lot of customers early on, or potential customers early on, in an environment to where there was expectations that there was going to be mistakes made and the materials weren't going to be perfect. And so it was a very founder-friendly, startup-friendly environment to get exposed to initial customers in. And that was essentially the Oak Ridge researchers bringing these industrial partnerships to the table. So those two elements were really different from anything I've seen in any other accelerator, or were really helpful to us as a company.
Cool. Yeah, Megan, how about you?
Yeah, I'll echo what Matt said in just the deep technical expertise that you have access to, and you can't downplay the access to free lab space or very low cost lab space in every single piece of equipment you could ever imagine. As a wet chemical process, we needed a lot of analytical tools that are, $250,000 to $1 million. So not cheap equipment. And so it was really nice to have all of that in the early tech development stages. And I will say, I've been in a lot of accelerators, and the Innovation Crossroads team just really dives in and helps you in every single way they possibly can. So I felt like it was a all hands on deck situation, and they were there for you like every step of the way, which is not usually the case in other accelerators, where it's either part-time or you only see them maybe every couple of months. So at least in my experience. So I found that to be extremely helpful. Just always being able to contact you or Tom or Kelly or Gary was just so helpful in both the business side, but also on the O&L technical side as well.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I forgot to mention that, but I agree. I mean, same thing with the accelerators I've been a part of. You actually really feel like with the Innovation Crossroads Accelerator that your team has been extended, people directly on your team essentially. So yeah, that was also a big help.
So I always think back, especially with you two and Matt, that you were able to actually start selling products really before you graduated the program, and then that was really cool to see that development. And then Megan, what I remember is when we had some from the lab senior leadership team actually seek you out to bring you up to a high level DOE critical materials meeting. That really, I think that really spoke to the impact that you were making, and the visibility that you had within the lab, to see somebody from really the top level management say, hey, Megan needs to come with me to this meeting. Yeah, so that's been really cool to see those developments with you, and then with obviously the similar things happening with other companies in the program. This is kind of What would you say is maybe if you could pick one or maybe a couple of specific resources within the program that you think were really helpful to you? And this might kind of overlap a little bit with what we just talked about, but that you thought were particularly helpful about the program. Megan, why don't you go first on this one?
Sure, sure. So I think similar to what I just said, the lab space and the instrumentation access, I mean, you'll never be able to find all that in one spot, except at a national lab, and people there who know how to use it and can train you. So that in itself was amazing. And then I say for me, I think I was honestly, I think I was the one with the least business experience coming into our cohort. And so just having access to all the mentors like John Bruck and Gary Rawlings was so helpful, even before they were on, board with Innovation Crossroads full time, and having access to all the different entrepreneurs in the Knoxville community was incredibly helpful, to really just get me up and understanding the different business models for this type of industry. And even on the technical side, right? Like John and Gary are very technical themselves. So bouncing ideas off of them and then really relying on them and having them help us with a variety of business tasks was really helpful in getting us oriented of what we should focus on first. Because coming in, from academia, it's quite overwhelming to figure out what you need to focus on first. So they sort of helped me navigate that throughout the 2 years.
Awesome. Yeah, Matt, what about you?
Yeah, and for the sake of not being repetitive, I'm sorry if you guys hear I'm in our manufacturing facility and compressor motor just turned on in the background, so I'll try to talk over it. But
people are ordering stuff.
But yeah, one thing that I wasn't really expecting and Megan touched on this, but just even outside of Knoxville, just the state of Tennessee is very startup friendly and has a lot of nice programs, and the Innovation Crossroads program is really well connected, just even outside of Knoxville. So like the Launch Tennessee program, I just got to notice they have the funds secured to start back up the SBIR match program, which is really an incredible program that I haven't seen at the state level, to where they're actually providing just this cash in matching funds to SBIR grants. I think Megan, you took advantage of that program. And so those types of resources, just outside of even the national lab, the Innovation Crossroads program has a strong connections to, I think are also really valuable to the entrepreneurs.
Cool. Yeah, and that's yes. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something I kind of didn't mention in that little brief intro, is how we leverage a lot of the ecosystem here locally and regionally, and have a lot of great partners like Launch Tennessee, and the University of Tennessee, and obviously TVA here, and then a lot of other partners. So yeah, I'm definitely glad you brought that up, Matt. And certainly in addition to FedTech here as well, and the mentorship they provide. Because so we have an incoming class here, around in June, we always bring on the new cohort. What advice would you have for people coming into the program, given that from what you've seen and gone through the program? I think both of you leveraged very well the resources in the program, but maybe if there was something you would have done differently, or what just kind of what words of wisdom for the incoming class. Matt, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, I think looking back, and this depends on if you as a company have interest in going the SBIR, STTR type route. But we've gotten 2 different SBIRs, and we're going for the phase 2s. And knowing what I know now, I wish I would have engaged researchers more towards looking at those types of projects where we could submit grants together. For the SBIR STTR program, having industrial or a research partner such as a national lab, such as Oak Ridge and manufacturing demonstration facility, makes your grants very competitive. And there's a lot of technologies there that have, you know, a lot of good synergies. I was trying to think of a different word besides synergies, but a lot of different synergy there to where you can work with the national lab to enhance your competitiveness on these grants. And being there at the lab is a really nice environment to actually write the grants together and come up with nice proposals. And I think the researchers are motivated by that as well. I worked a lot with the researchers on industry projects from paid customers, and that was great and really good experience. But looking back, I wish I would have put in effort also to start some of these grant initiatives as well, because I think that would have been really valuable.
Cool. What about you, Megan?
I was going to say, oh, great answer, Matt. Yes. So I'll just reiterate that we are applying with ORNL now to a number of grants, and I wish I had started them back when I was still at ORNL. And it's still great to continue our work with the National Lab. But like Matt said, apply to as many SBIRs and STTRs and things with the National Lab as you possibly can. And even for your own company, even if you can't find a way to include the National Lab, because ORNL is so well known, it just gives you sort of another level up on the competitors who are also applying because ORNL is such a top tier research institution. So I would say that's first, and give yourself the runway. Fundraising is not easy. I'll tell you that. It is a long process. It will be your only job for a whole year probably. And thank God I had John Bruck to walk through every single piece with me as we went through it during COVID. But you know, apply for those grants, give yourself the runway. So when you leave the program, you can start that process and not feel rushed or that you have to sort of jump on that money as soon as you get out. Then I'll say, you know, I've mentioned John a few times, find your cheerleader, find your advocate. I think John was randomly assigned to me through the Energy Mentor program. And I'm so glad that we were matched because, you know, I lean on him for a lot of things and find that person you can call any time of day, right? I text him all the time with really dumb questions, but he always answers them. We always get a laugh out of it usually. So I really like, you know, it takes a village to start and to build a successful startup. So find those people and find those mentors who really believe in what you're doing and believe in your team. Because I think that's the most important thing that I learned is that you can't do it on your own and you shouldn't, right? I mean, you're not going to know everything. So really find those resources and use everything that Innovation Crossroads offers you. I think I used everything from the accounting service, PYA, to the law students at UT and everything in between, including Launch Tennessee and the Energy Mentor Network. So, you know, there's so many resources and really try to utilize all of them because they all bring this unique value to this program.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I think that's spot on, both of you. I think we've got time for one more quick question. And you know, what would you say to maybe people that are thinking about applying for this program or wondering if they're a good fit? What would you say to maybe help them or help see if they're a good fit for this program? Megan, why don't we start with you on this one?
Sure. So something that I did that was really helpful before I even applied was I reached out to you guys directly, and I think it was Kelly probably who emailed me back and you know, let me know even before I went through the application process whether it would be a good fit. And I would say if you're, you know, building an energy related startup and you know, could use all the resources we just mentioned, definitely apply. It's a fabulous program. I would certainly not be where I am today without you guys. So I can't thank you enough. And yeah, it's just such a great program. But definitely reach out beforehand. Kelly and Dan and Gary and John will all be there to answer questions. And you know, it's just such a great program to really kickstart you know, your startup and give you the resources you need as, you know, a really, really young hardware type technology company.
Cool. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Megan said in terms of reaching out to the lab and the researchers beforehand. So not even just reaching out to Innovation Crossroads team, but specifically finding researchers at the lab that would be good fits for collaborating with your technology. I sent materials and had samples measured and verified at the lab, and I identified the researchers that would be interested in working on it. And I think that was a major component of the reason why I was competitive and selected for the program. So just like Megan said about finding cheerleaders on the business side, you also want cheerleaders on the technical side and people in the lab that know your technology works and what you're working on is actually interesting for industry and commercialization. So find those people as early as possible. And also just echoing what Megan said, because this might be my last opportunity to talk, I'm not sure, but yeah, it is an amazing program, and it really gives you as a deep tech innovator a more comfortable environment and secure environment to fail, because you are going to fail on things, and to learn and to keep moving forward. And it gives you those resources just to survive through those first few years, which is really the goal through those first 2 years, is to survive. And so the Innovation Crossroads program is one of the best accelerators I know of, if not the best, where you can actually find that type of environment.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that wraps us up here. Megan, Matt, always really good to see you. Thanks for being a part of this. I know you guys are super busy, to say the least. But thanks for being here, and yeah, we're looking forward to your continued progress and success.